In today's lecture, to note down some important points regarding structural and non-structural factors. Before this, we have discussed about pre-disaster and post-disaster. In pre-disaster, first comes that risk assessment and analysis. For that, we have various ways in which we can find out the risk. That is risk acceptance, risk avoidance, risk reduction, and risk transfer. This comes under pre-disaster. Then when we talk about post-disaster, in that we have to study about damage and its assessment. In doing that, we have to also find out restoration of critical infrastructure. In that phase, we cover recovery part as well as rehabilitation, or you can say reconstruction. That was the first question. The second question is regarding structural mapping. What is structural mapping? How it is classified? The work of structural mapping is generally classified in 6 sections. So if you have a notebook with you, we can start writing down important points regarding structural mapping. You heading as structural mapping. क्वेश्चन आ सकता है एग्जाम में, राइट अ शॉर्ट नोट ऑन स्ट्रक्चरल मैपिंग, और what are the classifications of structural mapping, what are the different ways in which structural mapping can be done for disaster management. So you can form any question regarding structural management. Start presentation. And we start noting the important points. Can anyone of you explain क्या हो सकता है structural mapping? What are structural factors and what are non-structural factors? Structural के अंदर क्या आएगा? We are talking about disaster management, mitigation measures. So as you can see, we have already discussed pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster measures. Now we are talking about structural mapping. So in structural mapping, the very first point is planning and design of infrastructure for disaster management. Under this, first of all, we'll understand what is structural mapping. Structural mapping of the disaster prone area is one of the most important work to be carried out. It means what? We have to understand number of residential building, commercial complexes, factories, dams, reservoirs, number of bridges. If you have metro, monorail projects, so we should understand and we have to map down each and every structure in the particular locality. Because at the time of any disaster, if we have to reduce vulnerability, loss of life, and loss of property or damage to a property, we should first understand which type of structure is designed or is present in that particular area. And to find that, we should understand some important points that are listed below. Now, if we take example of Bhuj earthquake, we have discussed this earlier also. Over there, the structures were made up of heavy stones and mud. The wall where thickness of the wall was around 1 feet, that is 30 centimeter or more. And because of which, when the earthquake come, there were more casualties because when structure collapse is collapsed directly in the inner side of your house, and because of which maximum casualties were there. And that's the reason nowadays we go for light construction. Instead of brick also nowadays we are using C4X blocks which are light in weight. So automatically it will reduce the dead load also, and at the time of earthquake also it will reduce damage. So the work of structural mapping is classified in the below 6 points, and the first point is planning and design of infrastructure for disaster management. What we understand by planning and design of infrastructure for structure disaster management. Now give me example of infrastructure development in Mumbai city. कौन सा हो रहा है infrastructural development? Use your chat box, metro, very good. Or any new project other than metro. Coastal road, very good. Yes. Also we are going for also we are constructing new bridge. Bridges का construction होते ही रहता है ना. Flyovers, yes. New flyovers, bridges, as well as we are constructing metro, coastal roads. Again we are going for expanding the width of highways. So everything is going on. These are not Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj statue, yes, tunnels, metro tunneling project. These are nothing but infrastructure project. But when we go for designing and planning of such projects, we have to keep in mind a very important factor, that is disaster management. Now example, जैसे हम लोग टनलिंग कर रहे हैं और वी आर गोइंग फॉर अंडरग्राउंड मेट्रोस इन मुंबई सिटी. अब हम सबको पता है इन मुंबई सिटी the main problem is rainy season, and in the rainy season, water logging or flooding situations. We are going underground for designing of metro. What will be the impact if we are not considering all these factors while planning and designing? तुम लोगों ने देखा होगा in many subways जो प्रोवाइड करते हैं जनरली underground for the passage of passengers or pedestrians, they are mainly flooded near 4 months of rainy season. Why? Because there is not proper planning and designing of that particular subway for this rainy season, or we are not properly calculated the future intensity and runoff, and that's the reason Mumbai Alibag corridor projects is going on. Versova Creek Pier, yes, very good. तो एनी टाइप ऑफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट जब हम लोग करेंगे, in the beginning only we have to think about disaster management. What are the different types of disaster that may happen and how we can mitigate them, and for that we have to be prepared against that particular hazard. So in this, the physical infrastructure sector is an important part of most countries' economy. अब infrastructure project होता क्यों है? This is the main reason to improve the economy of our country, right? Why we are constructing metros, flyovers, widening of your existing roads? Because to increase the economy, transport facilities, which will ultimately result in growth of your GDP and economy. Urban and industrial infrastructure is many times unplanned and or non-approved but built and operated. We all know. That's why we are taking the example of Mumbai city only. Urbanization in our city is mostly unplanned, or you can say it is illegal construction, that is known as non-approved, and that's the main reason we are more vulnerable to any disaster or any hazard. In the same manner, industrial projects also many a times are not properly approved or sanctioned by government, but still it is built and operated, and that's the reason it results in hazardous situation, and because of which disaster may take place. So in structural mapping, we have to see that at the time of planning and designing only, we are taking into consideration disaster management by providing some mitigation measures, and as well as we have to prepare for it. Preparedness is very important. Now next point we have disaster safe designs and constructions. What we understand by disaster safe design and construction. In RCC design or steel structure design subject, any design subject, structural subject, we know we have to multiply it by some factor of safety so that our design is safe for the excessive loading as well. In the same manner, when we go for structural designing, which is an ecological and sustainable model of disaster management, assumes that disaster planning, preparedness, response, and recovery all occur at various levels of organization. While constructing also, if you are constructing foundation, so while going for foundation also, we have to see that you are not disturbing any existing water line, sewage line, or electric lines. Also, we have to study soil properties first, because there are some examples because of failure of shear piles, collapse of existing structure happen. एक example देता हूँ तुम लोग को. We are in a city only, as we know, it is very crowded. So if a construction of nearby project is going on, and already we have a tower of G plus 12, and beside that we have started new project. Because of vibrations created during the construction of foundation of new project, it results in failure of, or you can say, landslide may happen in the existing structure. So we have to provide mitigation measures and we have to prepare for it. So how you can provide mitigation measure? By providing shear walls or by providing retaining walls in such a way that the vibrations will not affect the nearby structures. So we have to see that we are providing all this planning, preparedness and response at various levels of organization. These steps or levels of increasingly complexity include the individual, family, the organization and the community and the state and the country. That is the macro levels. So we have to think on each level. Our design should be safe for individual, his family, for the organization as well as for the community. When we talk about infrastructural projects, it should be safe for state and the country as well. Because when we talk about infrastructural projects, these are mainly used by huge population. And if you are not followed proper designing of that particular structure, then there are chances of any disaster taking place, and because of which there will be loss of property as well as loss of life. In addition to the features of the hazard or disaster itself, it is also assumed that similar or parallel disaster planning, preparedness and response elements, as well as the logistic challenges and the need for flexibility and sustainability and rehabilitation elements occur at each level of ecological model depending on the disaster phase. So we should also understand at the time of designing how to take care about how flexible our structure is, how sustainable it is, and if we have to reconstruct it, how it will be helpful for the reconstruction in future. It is also expected that the evaluation of response and recovery efforts can and should inform and enhance future planning and preparedness efforts at every level. That means we should form a comprehensive system model of disaster planning, preparedness, response, and recovery. In this, we have to provide all the facilities or the mitigation measures, that is alarming systems. We have to provide fire extinguishers, sprinklers, We have to provide proper connectivity of roads as well to our new projects so that in case of any hazard, if we have to respond, the emergency response teams like fire brigades, ambulance, police or NDRF should have an easy route or access to your particular infrastructure project, or you can say a particular building or structure as well. If there is not proper connectivity or roadways to reach a particular structure, then there will be delay in response and recovery operations. So while designing, we have to see these factors as well. By providing the width of the road for your circulation in inner sides of your project, we should keep a minimum width which will allow passage of one or two vehicles at the same time, parallel movement. So we have to see that also. Otherwise, what happens in many cases, can take example of South Bombay, other places where the population intensity is high, there is no proper gap provided between two structures, and because of which it is not possible to reach to a particular point of impact. And that is the reason we cannot use high-tech equipments or technology to deal with that particular incidence, and it will result in high casualties, and it will increase the time for providing response and relief. So while designing, we have to see that our structure is sound in all these points. So we have to follow designing and planning rules and bylaws. In third point, that is risk mapping, assessment and analysis. As we have already discussed in pre-disaster stage, that the risk control is important because the risk will result in disaster. So risk control is important for proper business management, considering the competitive economic background. Risk mapping is a precondition to setting up a risk control policies. The risk mapping and control depends on various factors such as the efforts taken by an organization to find out its list of risks it has to face, that is, for example, fire, doubtful acts, environment, etc. Now, why it is important or किसके लिए important है? It is important for mainly for industries or factories, you can say, because competition is high. Because of any negligence, if any accident take place at your site or in your factory, then it will result in shutdown, or you can say it will result in loss of productive time, and it will affect your business directly. And that's the reason in such structures it is very important that we find out risk. We have to assess it and analyze it well in advance. And for that reason, we have to take efforts to find out such risks in our particular organization. What are the factors which will be hazardous or it will result in outbreak of fire? You can take example of hanging wires, wet floors, any hazardous chemicals stored in haphazard manner, and some natural disasters as well. In structural mapping, we have to also go for a vulnerability analysis. In order to access the organization's exposure or more types of threats. For example, in a factory, more than 100 workers are working. We can take example of mines as well. In mines, many workers are working at the time. And if there is leakage of dangerous gases, and because of which if exposure happen, there will be more casualties. We can take example of our institute as well. If on a working day, if because of any reason fire outlet happen, there is some fire in our library, you can see. So there are more chances of vulnerables because we have good store in there and it will easily catch fire. So it will help in increasing the intensity of that particular fire. That's the reason we have to go for vulnerability analysis. If that particular room is more vulnerable to such type of hazard, then we can provide more mitigation measures and will be design that particular room accordingly. And this is the very important point in the planning because if we know what is the actual use of that particular structure, then and only then you can go for and you can design the required mitigation and preparedness measures. Unless and otherwise, it is very difficult to actually provide such measures. You can take example of malls, shopping malls, theaters, in which we have huge number of vulnerables present in that particular area. So we have to take excessive care. In that the organization also have to identify and quantify the consequences of that particular risk and various risks are recorded according to its probability and its severity. This is done by using risk matrix. एक risk matrix आता है उसमें होता है probability मतलब what are the chances of happening of that particular event and its severity. Severity means what? If that particular event happens, what will be its impact? जैसे मैंने बोला अगर लाइब्रेरी में फायर फायर आउटलेट आउटब्रेक होता है तो चांसेस आर रेयर यू कैन से प्रोबेबिलिटी इज 1 बट सिवियरिटी इज हाई उसका इम्पैक्ट विल बी हाई so that will be 5. So if we rate from 1 to 5, probability is 1, but impact is 5. If you multiply 5 into 1, that is 5. So your risk matrix or risk analysis, you can say that is 5. So accordingly, we have to find out all such hazardous situation or you can say risk and we have to go for risk analysis. So in analysis, we have to identify its probability and its severity. If a structure is vulnerable to flooding, जैसे रोड्स ले लो होता है ना फ्लडिंग हो जाता है सो वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट द प्रोबेबिलिटी कि कितना प्रोबेबिलिटी है कि यहाँ पे फ्लडिंग हो सकता है वाटर लॉगिंग हो सकता है एंड व्हाट विल बी इट्स इम्पैक्ट एंड अकॉर्डिंगली will provide mitigation measures. If we are not doing risk analysis, then it is very difficult to provide any mitigation or preparedness measures. जैसे एग्जाम के लिए भी स्टडी कि व्हाट इज द प्रोबेबिलिटी कि ये क्वेश्चन आ सकता है कितने मार्क्स के लिए आ सकता है अगर मैं पर्टिकुलर चैप्टर नहीं करता हूँ ऑप्शन में रखता हूँ तो व्हाट इज द प्रोबेबिलिटी कि ये छोड़ के बाकी कितना वी कैन स्कोर तो दैट इज प्रोबेबिलिटी देन द एक्शन प्लान we have to prepare in order to reduce degree of vulnerability that is acceptance for society. So while planning also, we should see that it should be accepted by society. For example, you can take current example, the lockdown. So to reduce vulnerability, government has taken action, लॉकडाउन कर दिया था for a month, 2 months, 3 months. We have followed the rules, but then after that, we should see that particular guidelines and rules should be acceptable by the society as well. If it is not acceptable, then we have to change some rules and we have to adopt some other techniques or we have to adopt some other action plans. The actions can involve protection by reducing their severity should they occur or prevention by reducing their probability of occurrence. Maybe you can take examples. We are opening shops as well as malls also, but on one condition that they should not be overcrowded. Then we have to wear masks. We have to sanitize ourselves. Proper checking is done for the oxygen level, you can say, or for the temperature. So these are nothing but preventive measures. As we cannot reduce the impact or severity, we can reduce or prevent so that there will be less probability of occurrence of that particular disease. Nowadays, we are doing that only. We are reducing the chances of occurrence of a particular use by providing or by boosting your immunity power, also by using masks, sanitizers, or whenever it is not required, we should stay at your home only. For this also, we have to require a budget estimate is to be provided by assessing the impact on the risk level. The optimal and cost efficient solution for the company can then be chosen by the risk manager. So after assigning or after completion of your assessment, you have to provide one report in which you have to mention what is the risk, what is this impact, what are the mitigation and preparedness measures, and what will be its cost, because cost is very important. And after that, the manager of the company or you can the stakeholders will decide which designing or mitigation measures we have to choose for our organization that will reduce the particular risk. Because if the chances are low and you are investing in a high-tech technology, then again that will be a waste of money, you can say. So that's the reason we have to balance it. If for industry you can say if there are chances of happening of fire outbreak, then we'll provide high-tech technology over there. But whereas in institutes or you can say residential or commercial complexes where there are not such chances of happening of that particular event, then we don't go for high-tech technology. We'll take a second option where we can save some amount of money as well. Next point is sea walls, embankments, bioshield, shelters, etc. These are some techniques which we adopt generally for mitigation of risk. So adopting integrated multiple hazard approach with the emphasis on cyclone and tsunami risk mitigation in coastal areas. So implementation of early warning systems for cyclones, tsunami, streamlining the relief distribution system in disaster affected areas, preparation of a database for the people living in tsunami hazard prone areas, This all we have to do in pre-disaster forms. In that, first comes construction of cyclone shelters. Areas, that is coastal areas. We can take example of South India, the coastal areas around South India side. We have to provide cyclone shelters. This construction of cyclone shelters is important so that it will reduce the impact of that particular cyclone. Then development of bio shields in plant. It can be provided by plantation of mangroves and coastal forest along the coastal line, helps in reducing the speed of water entering the land area due to tsunami. So you can take example of Malad, Gorai or Marbe. For the construction nowadays, we are cutting down the mangrove trees, and that is the main reason more flooding or erosion of soil is happening in that area, because the sea water is directly entering your residential area, or you can say directly striking to your sea banks, and that's the reason continuously landslides or erosion of the particular area is happening. So to reduce the impact of tsunami, or to reduce the impact of tidal energy as well, we have to provide, or we have to plant mangroves and coastal forests along the coastal line, and bioshields can be developed as a coastal zone disaster management sanctuary, which must have thick plantation and public space for public awareness and demonstrations. So जहाँ पे बार बार साइक्लोन्स और सुनामी आने के चांसेस है, this is the best technique that we have to provide, or we can develop a coastal zone sanctuary along the coastal line, that is take plantation, so that it will reduce the impact of tidal energy at the time of tsunami. Then comes embankments. So construction of well-designed embankments is important. The embankments with waterfront slopes, walls and gutters to resist saturated soil without water in front. So embankments, then retaining walls, we provide to help against landsliding or to resist any load that is coming from waterfront as well, by providing proper slopes and walls. After this, the next point is सूरज ने कुछ लिखा है हिंदी में। हाँ सूरज, हाँ, very good. They are facing a problem because of causing delay in this process. Yeah, exactly. यही मेरे को बोलना था, वो डिजाइन सेकेंड वाले पार्ट में, दैट इज सेफ डिजाइनिंग में वी शुड फॉलो द लॉज, क्योंकि हम लोग को पहले ही बोला गया है वी शुड प्रोवाइड एटलीस्ट 3 मीटर फ्रंट स्पेस, 3 मीटर बैक स्पेस, at the side also we have to provide at least 1.5 1.5 meter, and we should have proper approach ways to each and every structure, otherwise ये problems हो गया. The response नहीं है, if there is not proper access, as well as ये तो हो गया बाहर के बारे में, as well as we should provide proper passages for circulation, horizontal circulation as well as vertical circulation in your structure. We can take example of our institute. We have enough spaces. The width is around 3 meter or more than that for the free circulation, horizontal circulation, as well as for vertical circulation. We have 3 staircases, so that it will allow you at the time of response or at the time of any hazardous situation to rescue as well as to provide help to others. उसके लिए space चाहिए होता है. If it is congested, then it is very difficult for NDRF or any other rescue team, fire brigade you can say, at the time of fires also, it is very difficult. That will study in the further lectures कि क्या क्या होता है problem in institution as well as in residential buildings. The next point, the fifth point we are discussing, that is early warning systems. These are very important, early warning systems. इसका example भी दूंगा. Ex-students of us has designed a real-time warning systems for structural failures. Structural fails होते हैं ना, like your bridge, metro bridge हो गया, collapsing of this building. If we install that particular system, it will give you result, or you can say it will give you data per second. जैसे Google Map देता है, वो per second का data देता है how your structure is performing, what are the load distribution. और कोई अगर point पे if it exceeds that particular limit, it will give you warning sign. In this particular beam, column or slab is overloaded and it is developing cracks and it can be collapsed anytime. हमारे स्टूडेंट ने किया था. वेरी गुड प्रोजेक्ट गाइडेड बाय युवराज सर. उनको प्राइज भी मिला है बाय आईआई बेलापुर लोकल सेंटर में, उनको प्राइज मिला है. आईआईटीज में प्राइज मिला है. दैट इज नथिंग बट अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम डिजाइन किया था. सेम वे द ग्रेट लॉस ऑफ लाइव्स हैज बीन टेकन प्लेस ड्यूरिंग द last decade by disaster caused by storms, droughts, floods, structural collapse, so to an earthquake. To reduce this, we have to provide warning systems. Due to some unavoidable material losses, especially when very large and uncontrollable event occur, and in few cases loss of lives could have been avoided if precautions and prevention steps had been in place. There are rare chances जिसमें we can provide and avoid the loss of lives by providing a proper, जैसे for example हो गया ये collapse of buildings. अब this can be avoided if we get a proper warning system in advance. Whereas in a natural disaster, it is not in our control. We can get warnings, we can evacuate that particular area, but it is not in our control. But this we can control, collapsing of structures. As an engineer, we can control all this. So at the time of tsunamis and cyclone also, if we get a proper sign in the time of earthquake also, we can reduce the death count by evacuating or providing proper shifting of vulnerable people. But in the structural collapse, we can save each and every life if we get a proper warning sign well before 5 or 10 minutes also. So due to unavailability, like the example say, of early warning system in Sri Lanka and the eastern coast of India, over 34,000 people lost their lives in the tsunami by the 2006, 2004 में. If coastal population would have been warned in advance about the tsunami with the help of early warning system, considerable losses will have been saved and significant lives will have been saved. The awareness about the tsunami, the training to record and respond the situation, execution of sufficient measures were few reasons for a great loss of lives during the particular disaster. क्योंकि उनको ट्रेनिंग नहीं था, they don't have any warning systems or any equipments required for mitigate that particular hazard. So the people-centered early warning systems are very effective for community to prepare for and tackle the power of natural hazards as well. So the efficiency of the system is quantified on the basis of life saved and reduction in losses. The efficient use of the system is directly related to the evacuation and probable response by the people and community at the time of warning is issued. So we have the fire alarms installed in our institute as well. At the time of any outbreak of fire, automatically alarm will start ringing. And so that if you are not aware of that also, we can evacuate a particular building. क्योंकि पता ही नहीं लगता कहाँ पे फायर आउटब्रेक हुआ है. If we are studying in a first floor और आउटब्रेक होता है फोर्थ फ्लोर में तो हमें नहीं पता होता है. But because of alarm system, we can all the students can be warned and we can evacuate a particular building. There are some disadvantages also of this early warning system. That is, system can be in terms of saving lives of people if this system are not integrated with people-centered networks. क्या होता है? If we have all these systems but it is not properly installed or it is not properly maintained, और उसका disadvantage भी है कि वो कभी मतलब at the time of outbreak ring होगा नहीं होगा, because we are reliable on the system, and if it doesn't work then there are chances of more casualties. For effective early warning system, it must be clear and responsible. The system should be trustworthy and relevant to the communities which they serve. We have to train the mass population when approaching the hazard which is fruitful at the time of emergency. Only the warnings can have little values. Otherwise warning मिला और हमको ट्रेनिंग ही नहीं है how to evacuate that particular building or have to respond in that particular. Many times होता है ना, this is the case. Many times happen because we have installed 2-3 systems and we don't know what exactly the alarm sounds. अलार्म तो बज रहा है लेकिन किसी को समझ ही नहीं आएगा इस अलार्म इज कॉल्ड व्हाट रीजन, व्हाई इट इज अलार्मिंग. फॉर एग्जांपल यू हैव अ वॉशिंग मशीन, ऑटोमेटिक है, you on it and it is giving you continuous noise or continuous कुछ beeping sound दे रहा है, but you don't understand it is for what, then what is the use of your technology? Same manner, that's why the training is very important. Then and only then your warning system has some value. Otherwise उसका कुछ value नहीं है if you don't educate or train people how to respond in that particular warning system or the warning signs comes out. So the International Federation, the disaster management supports the development of warning system but emphasizes the importance of following factors as well. That is, first factor is establish local networks that can both receive and act on warnings, that create awareness and educate communities to take action to ensure their safety. Okay, just warning system install karna is not the only solution. We have to see that they are the local network that will receive these signs and act accordingly. Then using these local networks to develop warning systems gradually so that it meets the needs of the communities and situation for which their design is fulfilled. It means what? In a particular region, अगर वहाँ पे कुछ problem है and that is limited to that particular region, so it is not necessary to warn whole state or give warning to each and every individual and creating panicking situation among everyone. So we have to see that also. The local networks should be so strong that it will develop a systematic approach to the warning signs also. Because otherwise what will happen? Those who are not vulnerable to that particular disaster as well, they will start panicking. So this should not be the case. Then We have to be ready for a multi-hazard approach to ensure the sustainability by providing active alert, awareness, and relevance when a disaster or hazard strikes. Because when a primary hazard impact, उसके बाद secondary hazards and disease भी होते हैं. So we have to be ready for multi-hazard approach. वार्निंग तो एक का ही मिलेगा, पर उसके साथ दूसरे प्रॉब्लम भी आ सकते हैं. बिकॉज ऑफ फ्लडिंग और एक्सेसिव रेनफॉल देयर आर चांसेस ऑफ लैंडस्लाइड एज वेल. So we have to be ready for it. Because of earthquake, there are chances of landslide, structural collapse. So we have to be ready for it. So we should be also prepared for multi-hazard approach. And the last point in your structural mapping is using risk time charts to plan for the future. After impact of particular hazard, we will prepare what risk and time charts, which will be helpful for future development and future planning. So disaster risk forecasting methodologies are developed to estimate changes in expected economic losses over time due to disaster. So forecasting is very important when we go for town planning also, and when we talk about the disaster management and mitigation also. Because while going for reconstruction, we have to see that we have forecasted risk correctly. Otherwise, again, there will be more casualties. So risk forecasting is very important. The methodologies are capable to quantify the relative efforts of various factors which affect the losses. The method जो भी हम लोग use करेंगे और we are proposing, it should be capable to find out the quantity of losses. Otherwise क्या होगा? You are using a wrong method, or you are choosing a wrong method in that particular situation, and it will give you wrong results. And then whatever you are investing, that will not be sufficient. In almost all post-disaster studies, it is seen that building inventory changes affects the loss of considerably. So changes in building code affect building vulnerability, and intensity of effects keep on increasing over time and depend on intensity of disaster, that is from moderate to high. So as we all aware, we keep on revising IS codes. That is the reason after the collapsing of buildings, structures or any other hazard, we see what are the factors that involves, and we then keep on modifying the available IS codes so that the losses will be minimized in future. The risk time charts are helpful in scheming mitigation plans. Those are generated considering the typical conditions of the built environment as relative contributions of different factors to the total risk are quantified. Mitigation plans are given a target that the critical factors and it achieves the desired risk reduction. So this risk and time chart plays very important role in the mitigation planning, because it will help you to build an environment, what is the actual conditions at the time of risk, and it will also find out different factors that is quantified and what are the critical factors that we have to focus on designing. And lastly, the probability of occurrence of the particular disaster event at a particular region in near future can be determined, and various methods may estimate the risk quantitatively for various growth scenarios and approach appropriate mitigation steps can be taken. So when we use the proper methodology for forecasting by using risk timeline charts, it will also help us in finding out the probability of happening of that particular event in that particular region in near future and what will be its impact, so that we'll be prepared for that particular scenario and appropriate mitigation steps will be taken in advance. So this is all about your structural mapping. So these 6 points are very important when we are talking about structural mapping. So in this way, we can actually go for structural mapping to reduce the impact. So these are nothing but what? These are nothing but your mitigation measures in structural mapping. The next lecture we study about non-structural mitigation measures. What are the non-structural mitigation measures? These are all what structural, actual planning, related to actual planning. That's why it is known as what? Structural mitigation. In next lecture, we'll discuss about non-structural mitigation. उसमें क्या क्या आएगा? What will be the factors? I hope you all understand this much. Any doubts, anything you can ask, any important point you have to note down. These points ये तो मैंने heading दिया है, तो इसको क्या करना पड़ेगा? You have to explain this in detail. अगर एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन आता है तो you have to explain this points in details. Okay, so I have recorded your attendance.